so shady. I messed up. I'm sorry. Everything's all bad. 21-year-old Matthew Weaver Jr. sent those texts and then disappeared forever. No crash, no struggle, no goodbye. Just an abandoned car on a remote mountain trail, and a mystery soaked in paranoia, fear, and something darker. He told friends someone was watching him, that he felt he was in danger, and hours later, he was gone. No one saw what happened, but his final messages might hold the key. This is not just a disappearance. This is a story of fear, pursuit, and a truth buried in the hills of Malibu. And once you hear it, you'll never drive that road at night again. This is the real story of Matthew Weaver Jr., a case that still haunts California to this day. Matthew Weaver Jr. wasn't lost. He wasn't running from anything. He was 21, grounded, working a steady job as a cable installer in Simi Valley. He partied on weekends. He joked with friends. He had people who loved him. He had plans. There was no darkness in his life, no drama, no warning signs. Just a guy doing what so many of us do, trying to figure it all out. But on August 9th, 2018, something changed. After hanging out with a girl, Matthew got in his car and started driving. Not home, not to a friend's place, but deep into the Santa Monica Mountains, alone, at nearly 3 in the morning. That's not a casual drive. That's not just clearing your head. That's remote wilderness, steep cliffs, no streetlights, no cell signal. And then, just minutes later, he sends a series of texts that feel like something out of a nightmare. So shady, I'm not sure what's going on. I messed up. Everything's all bad. That's when everything stopped. No more calls, no more messages, and no one ever saw him again. August 10th, 2018. A quiet, warm Friday night in California. Nothing unusual yet. Matthew had been hanging out with a girl he'd recently started seeing. Dinner. A few laughs. Everything normal. She said he seemed happy. Calm even. But after he dropped her off, something shifted, and no one knows why. Instead of heading home, Matthew got into his car and just started driving. No texts, no calls, no goodbye. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. He just disappeared into the night. He headed toward the Santa Monica Mountains, but not to a lookout, not to a known trail. He took a remote fire road called Rosas Overlook, a place you don't just stumble into. No streetlights, no traffic, just steep cliffs, heavy brush, and dead silence. It's the kind of place where your phone dies, and nobody knows you're missing. And for some reason, at nearly 3 a.m., that's where Matthew went, alone. Within minutes, he would send a series of panicked texts, then vanish forever. Whatever happened that night started up there. And as we continue this mysterious story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Every episode takes hours of research and editing. Your support keeps us going. The next day, no one could reach Matthew. Calls went straight to voicemail. No texts, no updates, just nothing. At first, it felt like a dead battery. But by nightfall, that silence started to scream. His family filed a missing person report. And within hours, they were out searching, on foot, in cars, online. Anywhere he might have gone. 4 days later, they found his car. It wasn't crashed. It wasn't abandoned on a roadside. It was parked, halfway up a narrow fire road, deep in the mountains. The kind of road no one uses. Not for hiking, not for camping. Too remote, too dangerous. The kind of road you don't go down unless you have a reason. Inside the car, his wallet, cash, ID, all untouched. But the keys? Gone. Phone? Gone. Matthew? Nowhere. It was like he'd stepped out and vanished. Then it got worse. A few days later, search teams found his hat near a cliff edge. Then, a piece of torn fabric caught in the brush. It matched the shirt he was last seen wearing. No blood. No drag marks, no sign of a struggle. But something was off. The way the items were spaced, it didn't look like someone got lost. It looked like someone was running, or being chased, or worse, dragged. When Matthew disappeared, the facts were strange. But the silence? That's what made people spiral. Because it wasn't just a missing person case. It felt like something was being covered up or erased. Online threads exploded with theories. Some thought he was being followed. Others were convinced he saw something he wasn't supposed to. Something out there in the dark hills of Malibu. Was it a drug deal? A backwoods operation? A ritual? His cryptic texts didn't help. So shady, I'm not sure what's going on. Everything's all bad, short, rushed, like someone was watching. Then there's the location. That isolated fire road, it's not just hard to find. It's surrounded by military communications towers, places the public isn't allowed near. Some people claim they mess with GPS, jam phone signals. Others say there are underground facilities buried beneath those hills, with entrances hidden in the canyons. Sounds like conspiracy? Maybe. But then comes the dark web theory. Some believe Matthew was lured there by someone pretending to be a friend, that he was set up, targeted. You see, there are corners of the internet that don't look like the internet at all. Encrypted chats, invite-only servers, fake profiles that aren't really fake because they're bait. And maybe someone used that bait on Matthew. Some believe he walked straight into a trap, and whatever he saw, or whoever he met, made sure he would never speak again. There's no proof of that, of course, but when you put it all together, the location, the silence, the final messages, it doesn't feel like a coincidence. It feels like a warning. And the scariest part, he might not be the first. Matthew's family didn't wait. They knew something was wrong. This wasn't, he'll turn up. This was urgent. They launched a search the same day. Flyers, drones, dogs, dozens of people hiking those steep, unforgiving trails, hoping for anything. A shoe, a call, a sign. Days passed. Nothing. Until someone came forward. A hiker. He'd been near one of the ridges where Matthew's phone last pinged, and he swore he heard something, a voice, coming from deep inside the canyon. "Somebody help me. That's all. One sentence. No more." Rescue teams rushed to the spot, but by the time they got there, silence. Just wind in the trees. Just stillness. No footprints. No torn fabric. No blood. Nothing. It was like he'd been there. And then he wasn't. In May of 2021, almost 3 years since Matthew vanished without a trace, a hiker was walking along one of the same remote trails near Rosa's Overlook. And then they saw something, half-buried, weathered, bone-white, skeletal remains. Authorities were called in. The area was taped off. Forensics teams searched the brush, combed the dirt, documented every inch, and when the DNA results came back, it was him. Matthew Weaver Jr. had finally been found. But the relief didn't last long, because what they found didn't bring closure. It only deepened the mystery. There were no clear signs of what had killed him. No trauma, no weapon, not enough left to determine a cause of death. His remains were discovered in a rugged, nearly inaccessible patch of terrain, partially buried, deliberately hidden, and suddenly, more questions flooded in. Why there? Why buried? Who put him there? Was it an accident someone tried to cover up? Or had he been alive? For days, after that final text, suffering, waiting, hoping someone would find him. The timeline didn't make sense. The silence, the location, the state of his body, none of it added up. And just like that, the nightmare was no longer a mystery. It was something worse, a possibility, that someone did this to him and walked away. Matthew Weaver Jr.'s disappearance remains one of California's most haunting mysteries. A young man, full of life, sends one last message and vanishes into the dark. No struggle, no answers, just silence. To this day, no one knows what happened. What was chasing him? What did he see? And why didn't he come back? Was it someone? Something? Or a truth too dangerous to reveal? Maybe the answer is still out there, buried in those hills. Or maybe some stories are never meant to be solved. Only remembered, if this story gave you chills, there are more waiting. Subscribe to Mysterious Files, where true stories aren't just told, they're felt. One case, one mystery, every week.